we won't be successful if Allah doesn't will it. So we have to remember who we go to for success. And so in these blessed days, get involved with care, donate your money to care, and most importantly, make dua for our staff, our volunteers, our donors, and our board members so that we can keep on doing this work. Jazakallah khair.
Thank you, Sister Zahra. Please recite another salawat for her and the whole team at CARE. And now please welcome Sheikh Salim with a loud salawat.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وخاتم النبيين وسيد المرسلين أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين. Respected brothers and sisters, it's Thursday night, month of Ramadan, a special time for remembering Allah and for making dua. Alhamdulillah, we're blessed to be among this gathering of believers. We just heard a presentation from one of the sisters who's very active in the community, and she, along with her team, have done a lot of service to the Muslim community. We pray that Allah accepts their efforts and gives them tawfiq to continue the great work. Both them and all the other organizations that are putting forth efforts for helping the community. Tonight I wanted to take a few minutes to discuss the connection between the month of Ramadan and the ritual of Hajj. And I wanted to talk about a few of the relevant ahkam of Hajj. And you might be wondering why. I mean, we have enough rules when it comes to fasting. You know, sometimes we get calls like, well, I'm going here, do I have to break my fast? All these questions, and people are like, wait, you want to talk about something else other than fasting? There's enough rules just there. But as you know, one of the themes that's emphasized a lot by the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam in the month of Ramadan is to remember the Hajj. I'll give you some examples of where we're told to remember Hajj. In the morning, before the Fajr prayer, a lot of people are busy eating food. But one of the things that's very highly recommended during that time is to actually make dua. And we have special du'as from the Ahlul Bayt to be recited at the Sahar time. One of them is the famous dua known as Dua Al-Baha, which is filled with Tawheed and the description of the magnificence and beauty of Allah. One of the other du'as that's mentioned to be recited at the Sahar times is Dua Abi Hamza Al-Thumali. Now in that dua, there's many things that Imam Hajjat Al-Islam teaches us to ask Allah from. But did you know that 3 times in the dua, at 3 different places, the Imam ﷺ asks Allah to be able to be among the Hujjaj, those who go for the Hajj in that same year. 3 times in the same dua. If you look at the duas that we recite, the small duas that are recommended to recite on a daily basis in the month of Ramadan, again, we're told to ask Allah that fi amina hadha wa fi kulli am, that in this year and every year, O Allah, make me among the Hujjaj, those who perform the Hajj and are able to visit your home. On the night of Qadr, one of the main things that we're taught to recite in the du'as that were we're instructed that, okay, if you want to ask from Allah, then you ask for your needs, but also, some guidelines. So what are the things that we should be feeling the need for? One of the things, again, is that we're told that أَن تَكْتُبَنِي مِنْ حُجَّاجِ بَيْتِكَ الْحَرَامِ, that make me be among those who has that qadr, that destiny written for them. In one hadith that's narrated from our sixth Imam Al-Islam, he says that, very interesting, he says that when it comes to night of Qadr, that decision will be made who is going to be part of the Hajj caravans a few months later. And then he goes on to say something very interesting. He says that there might be somebody who's wealthy, who thinks that they're going to be going for Hajj that year, but if they're not decreed to go for Hajj, they're not going to go. And there might be somebody who is not wealthy, but if they are decreed to be able to go for Hajj that year, they are going to go as well too. He specifically mentioned that in one of the ahadith. And other examples as well where there's a connection between month of Ramadan and the Hajj. Now why? What is the significance? Why is it that there's so much of this link between the two? Some of our greatest scholars, they've explained some of the philosophy behind this connection. And this goes back to the hikmah, the wisdom behind the ibadah we perform. Every act of worship, Allah has decreed it for us because there is some benefit for us in it. Sometimes that benefit is obvious and apparent. Right now, you might have people who are not Muslim and they find out that you're fasting for 30 days. Right now, fasting is 29 days this year maybe. But right now, fasting is so much in style and so much like the fashion for health, they'd be in envy of you. They'd be like, whoa, really, you're doing fasting? And I know of some non-Muslims who, they were, let's say they had contact with Muslims in university, they actually fasted along with them because it's such a cool thing to do. Right? So one of the obvious, inshallah, health benefits that everyone is already noticing, inshallah, when they're measuring themselves on the weighing scale is the health that hopefully, inshallah, we're all moving towards. Now, there are other benefits as well. And we all know that one of the things that we're told about the month of Ramadan is that we are the guest of Allah in this month. Ayatollah Jawadi Amuli, Hafidahullah, he says something very interesting. He says that there's one time where you're a guest of Allah because of the month that you're in, which is the month of Ramadan. This month, Allah says that you just come, you participate by doing your duty, you fast with your stomach, you fast with your eyes, your ears, your tongue, and I'm going to take care of you. I will provide for you in ways that you can't even fathom and understand. That's one example of the hospitality of Allah. Now imagine that somebody invites you, you travel, you go to their home, and they take care of you there. Well, that's what happens in Hajj. That is another example of the hospitality of Allah, but in a different form. There are similarities though, right? Normally, hospitality is filled with like feasting and these type of things. In Ramadan, we're told that, no, you don't feast, I'm going to provide for you in a different way. In Hajj, normally when people go for traveling, they go and, they travel in luxury and these type of things, but in Hajj, you wear simple clothes, you go stay out in the open, you go traveling, you tire yourself out, you go walking, you be with the crowds, you can't just separate, and there you'll see that what true hospitality is all about. So there's a link between the two. That's one. One of the other things that's mentioned is that, okay, here you have, within the year, there's one time which is a special time, which is the month of Ramadan, which is excellent beyond all the other times. So similarly, there's one place which has excellence as well, which is the Kaaba. And so here you have a place of excellence. It's special, it has sharaf, it has honor compared to other places. And here you have a time which is excellent as well. So, Ayatollah Jawadi Amali, he says that the diyafa, the hospitality of Allah, that begins in the month of Ramadan, it doesn't just end in the month of Ramadan. It continues all the way till the month of Shawwal, till the month of Dhul Qa'dah, and then until the month of Dhul Hijjah. So for those who have that special tawfiq, they actually are able to extend the hospitality. It doesn't just end with the month of Ramadan, it continues, and then they receive it in full on the day of Arafah. It's very beautiful. So that's why we're told that in this month, you pray. One of the main du'as that we make. Now, who is it that Hajj is wajib upon? This is something that in just some discussions I've had with some of the community members, it seems that there might be some confusion about exactly what the rulings are with regards to when Hajj is wajib. And this is one of the things that we do need to know. Let's say that we're not going for Hajj. We don't need to know at this point the intricate details of, let's say, how to perform the sa'i or how to do the rami of the jamarat, throwing the stones or walking around the Kaaba. We don't need to know all those details. We can figure them out, inshallah, when we go there. But what we do need to know is whether Hajj is wajib on me or not. This is something that everyone, all Muslims need to know. We know that Allah Ta'ala in the Quran says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وَلِلَّهِ عَلَى النَّاسِ حِجُّ الْبَيْتِ مَنِ اسْتَطَاعَ إِلَيْهِ السَّبِيلَ. This is Allah's right upon human beings that they should go and visit His home. But whoever has istita'a, whoever is able to go. Now, who is it that has that ability to go? And when does it become wajib for them? Inshallah, I'm going to just summarize some of the rulings here so that we're all aware. First of all, within Islamic fiqh, there's Hajj, which is a general term. Whenever somebody goes during that time and they perform Hajj, it can be Hajj which is mustahab, it can be Hajj which is wajib. That's called the Hajj. But there's one special type of a Hajj called Hajjat Al-Islam. Hajjat Al-Islam is a code word. It means that Hajj which becomes wajib on somebody and they perform because it's an obligation upon them. Not everyone has that obligation on them, even though they're baligh, even though they're sane, even though they have taklif. It doesn't mean that everyone has that obligation on them. And one rule that's very important for us to realize is that if somebody doesn't have the obligation on them and they go and perform the Hajj, they cannot make it be their wajib Hajj. That would be a mustahab Hajj. Later on in their life, it might become wajib on them and then they have to perform it again. So this is very important, that when Hajj is wajib, it becomes Hajjat Al-Islam, and then they have to go and perform the Hajj. So it's very important for us to understand when it becomes wajib. But when it becomes wajib, it is wajib which is fawri, which is wajib which is an immediate wajib. There are some things which are wajib which are not fawri. For example, the time comes for prayer. Is it necessary for me to go and pray right this instant now that the prayer time has come? Is it? Well, it's good too. It's the best. You get the best fadila is to do it as early as possible. Close awwal al-waqt, at the beginning of time. But it's not wajib. Let's say I delay it 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes. I'm not doing anything haram. But let's say that somebody comes and says assalamu alaikum to me. Can I delay responding to them? Like I just wait for a couple minutes, right? And I'm like, no, that's a sin. Right? It's wajib on me to respond fawri, meaning right away. Let's say that this place we're in right now had the ruling of a masjid. And let's say there's some child who, some accident happens and some najasa gets on the floor of the masjid. Is it okay to just wait for the cleaners to come and clean it? No. It's wajib fawri. It has to be cleaned up right away because doing tathir of a masjid is wajib. It has to be done right away. Let's say that somebody has a loan that now the time has come for them to pay that loan back. And the person they borrowed money from, they come to them and say, I need my money back. And they have the money to give them back again. Right? Can they delay and say that, oh no, just chill, right? I need to say my prayers, I need to do some other stuff, I'll get back to you in a few hours? No, right? Islam is very particular about this, that's one of the cases where you have to delay your prayers from awwal al-waqt to go, you pay that loan off, and then you go on. So there's some examples like that in our Sharia, which is fawri. Brothers and sisters, when Hajj becomes wajib on somebody, it's fawri. They can't wait on it. It can't be like, oh, okay, that's good, inshallah 5 years from now. Right? Once I've memorized the Quran, then I'll go for Hajj. Okay, or once my kids are older, then I'll go for Hajj. Now maybe somebody has a valid excuse, we'll talk about those excuses, but once it becomes wajib, somebody has to go. Okay. Now, what are the conditions for it wajib? Very simple. First of all, there has to be financial readiness. Second of all, physical readiness. Thirdly, logistical. And fourth, time. Okay, let's just go through those, inshallah. Physical readiness is very easy. If somebody is physically capable of going for Hajj, then, and the other conditions are met, then they have to go for Hajj. But if somebody is not physically capable, then it becomes an obligation on them to appoint somebody to do it as on their behalf, a representative. When it comes to logistical, there's two things. Number one is that there should be a way to get there. And number two, that way should be a safe way. So for example, let's say that it's a pandemic, right? Saudi Arabia says that no, only people who are inside the country, they're going to be able to go, right? So then, okay, I don't have a way to get there. So I cannot become mustati. I can't become ready for going for Hajj, even if the other conditions are met. Or let's say for example, there's a lady who it becomes wajib on her for the other conditions, but she determines that it's not safe for her to go alone. She can't find a mahram to go with. So she says that, okay, well, this condition isn't met, so therefore, it's not going to be an obligation on me. Okay? The time is easy. Let's say that somebody, they get their bonus from work and it's like 5 days before, the day that they have to be, let's say that before the day of Arafah, right? And there's just not enough time. It's just impossible for them to get all the vaccines and everything done in time. So that means that for this year, it wouldn't be wajib for them, but next year they would have that readiness for it, assuming that the other conditions are met. So then the final condition is financial, right? So what is the financial conditions? So first of all, it's that somebody should have enough funds to be able to pay for the transport and the provisions for the journey. Okay, like you'll be able to get there and you'll be able to survive when you're there. Usually these days you get a package, they give you a price, all inclusive. You can see, okay, do you have that or you don't have it? Maybe somewhere around 12, 13, 14, 15K, something like that. Second of all, is that while you're away, your dependents should have enough money to survive. Number three is that when you return, you should be able to continue living your life. Not that when you come, you spend every single penny, you come back and now you're begging or something like that. No, you have to have enough to come back comfortably and live, properly. And then the fourth one is that paying for the Hajj shouldn't mean that you have to forego your basic necessities of life. So for example, let's say that I could go for Hajj, but I would have to sell my car, right? Well, is that the car that you use, you need, or let's say your family needs it? Okay. I could go for Hajj, but I would have to sell my house. Well, you need your house, right? Yeah, so then, okay, you don't need to go for Hajj. If that's the only way you're going to make the money, okay? Let's say that now I have 5 cars, right? Or I have too many cars, right? And then I have to sell a couple to be able to go for Hajj and sell those cars, right? Because that's something that, and if that would make it so that you would have enough, then you have to sell those cars, the extra ones. But not that you have to forego the basic necessities of life. Now, if those conditions are in place, I have enough to get there. I have enough to survive there. I have enough for my family to survive when I'm gone. I have enough when I come back to be able to resume living. And I'm not foregoing the necessities, those things which are necessary for somebody in my status, whatever status I'm in, to be able to live, right? Then it becomes wajib on me to go for Hajj. Now, one question here is that what if I have loans, right? Because loans, typically people tend to have loans, car loans, mortgages, right? So what about those? So here, this is very important that everyone refers to if they're thinking that this might be something which is wajib for them, they need to refer to their marjas. I'm just going to explain the rulings of 2 of the marjas, Ayatollah Sistani and Ayatollah Khamenei, hafidhahumullah. Ayatollah Sistani says what? He says that if you're in debt, you look at your assets, your savings, your net worth, and you see, do you have more than what you owe. Right? Let's say, for example, in your total of all your mortgages and loans, let's say it's $20,000, but in your savings and your everything, in your extras, you have more than that. You have, let's say, $80,000. You could easily pay off all your loans, and you could go for Hajj. In that case, and all the other conditions are met, and you haven't gone for Hajj yet, right? Then Hajj will become wajib on you, because Hajj is only one time in your life, right? Then you have to go for Hajj. But let's say that no, you owe like hundreds of $1,000s in your mortgage, right? You don't have like that type of cash to just pay that off or something like that. You don't have extra assets to just pay that off. While you are in that state of being in debt, right? Then Hajj, according to Ayatollah Sistani's ruling, does not become wajib on you. Okay, now let's say that somebody's in that circumstance, they still want to go. They still have enough, because they can still make, they're still making enough income to be able to pay their mortgage and to go for the Hajj. Can they still go and make it be wajib on them? They can, but they have to do it in a very careful way, right? Which they can't just go and say, I'm going to go for Hajj while they're in that state of debt, because that wouldn't count as their wajib Hajj. That would be a mustahab Hajj. If they want to do their wajib Hajj, then they have to do it in a special way, which inshallah, it involves taking money, you give it to somebody else to gift it back to you. Because if you get a gift of money, then it doesn't matter if you're paying, if you have a loan, you go with that, you can become mustati for Hajj, and it can become wajib on you. So that's a ruling for Ayatollah Sistani, and let me just explain the ruling for Ayatollah Khamenei, and then inshallah if there's a question or two, I can take that, then we'll end. Ayatollah Khamenei says what? He says that if you are in debt, but and it's a long-term loan, but you have enough to be able to make your payments, and you have enough extra to be able to go for Hajj, and all the other conditions are met, then it becomes wajib on you. So there's a slight difference there. So let's say you're making your house payments, you're totally comfortable doing that, right? And you have enough extra income, and then it becomes wajib. Now, sometimes there's situations that comes up. Let's say that all the other conditions are met, but I have small children and I don't have anybody else to take care of them. Nobody that I can trust to take care of my children if I go for Hajj. Well, there you first of all see, is there anybody who is trustworthy where you're not gonna neglect your responsibility towards your kids? If you can't find anybody, then you're not mustati, because this is something that's blocking that. Or let's say, for example, that somebody has very large medical expenses. They're going to come up, and if they go for Hajj, they won't be able to pay for those medical expenses. Of course, that's a case where there would be some excuse. They wouldn't be mustati for Hajj. So those things are factored in. But if somebody doesn't have those excuses, all the other conditions are met, brothers and sisters, it's wajib fawri, meaning that they have to make the plan. So inshallah, maybe this night will be a night where some of us are making that intention, that inshallah, that this coming Hajj will be Hajjat Al-Islam, doing that wajib Hajj. Inshallah, if there's any questions, maybe I could spend a couple of minutes and then we can, inshallah, wrap up. Any questions? Yes. The Hajjat Al-Islam, when is it counted as Hajjat Al-Islam? Like the wajib one? Oh, okay, when is it the mustahab one? Okay, so it's counted as the good question, thank you sister. So Hajj is either mustahab, meaning recommended, or it's wajib, meaning it's an obligation, right? It's counted as an obligation when I meet all the conditions of readiness for it. Financial readiness, physical readiness, I have enough time, and the logistics are in place for me able to go for Hajj. That's when it becomes wajib on me, and when I go, I will make the niyyah of wajib Hajj, Hajjat Al-Islam, assuming that it's the first time I'm going. If I don't meet those conditions, let's say I don't have that financial readiness the way that I described it. I'm still, let's say I'm doing Taqlib Ayatollah Sistani. I have this huge loan, I'm still paying it off. But I go for Hajj, I can't count that as my wajib Hajj. It's a mustahab Hajj, okay? Or let's say I've already gone for my wajib Hajj. I've done Hajjat Al-Islam, and I want to go again. Even if I meet the conditions, it doesn't become wajib on me again. When I go again, it's going to be the mustahab Hajj, okay? the recommended Hajj. So I hope that clarifies it. Okay, any other questions? Okay, Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. زيارة وارث. السلام عليك يا وارث آدم صفوة الله. السلام عليك يا وارث نوح النبي الله. السلام عليك يا وارث إبراهيم خليل الله. السلام عليك يا وارث موسى كليم الله. السلام عليك يا وارث عيسى روح الله. السلام عليك يا وارث محمد حبيب الله. السلام عليك يا وارث أمير المؤمنين عليه السلام ولي الله. السلام عليك يا ابن محمد المصطفى. السلام عليك يا ابن علي المرتضى. السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة الزهراء. السلام عليك يا ابن خديجة الكبرى. السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن ثاره والوتر الموتور. أشهد أنك قد أقمت الصلاة وآتيت الزكاة وأمرت بالمعروف ونهيت عن المنكر وأطعت الله ورسوله حتى أتاك اليقين. فلعن الله أمة قتلتك ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به. يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، أشهد أنك كنت نورا في الأصلاب الشامخة والأرحام المطهرة، لم تنجسك الجاهلية بأنجاسها ولم تلبسك من مدلهمات ثيابها. وأشهد أنك من دعائم الدين وأركان المؤمنين. وأشهد أنك الإمام البر التقي الرضي الزكي الهادي المهدي. وأشهد أن الأئمة من ولدك كلمة التقوى وعلام الهدى والعروة الوثقى والحجة على أهل الدنيا. وأشهد الله وملائكته وأنبياءه ورسله أني بكم مؤمن وبإيابكم موقن، بشرائع ديني وخواتيم عملي، وقلبي لقلبكم سلم وأمري لأمركم متبع. صلوات الله عليكم وعلى أرواحكم وعلى أجسادكم وعلى أجسامكم وعلى شاهدكم وعلى غائبكم وعلى ظاهركم وعلى باطنكم. زارة علي بن الحسين. السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله. السلام عليك يا ابن نبي الله. السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا ابن الحسين الشهيد. السلام عليك أيها الشهيد. السلام عليك أيها المظلوم وابن المظلوم. لعن الله أمة قتلتك ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به. زيارة شهداء كربلاء. السلام عليكم يا أولياء الله وأحباءه. السلام عليكم يا أصفياء الله وأوداءه. السلام عليكم يا أنصار دين الله. السلام عليكم يا أنصار رسول الله. السلام عليكم يا أنصار أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليكم يا أنصار فاطمة سيدة نساء العالمين. السلام عليكم يا أنصار أبي محمد الحسن بن علي الولي الزكي الناصح. السلام عليكم يا أنصار أبي عبد الله
بأبي أنتم وأمي طبتم وطابت الأرض التي فيها دفنتم وفزتم فوزا عظيما فيا ليتني كنت معكم فأفوز معكم. السلام عليكم يا جميع شهداء كربلاء ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا مولانا يا صاحب العصر والزمان، عجل الله تعالى فرجك وجعلنا من أعوانك وأنصارك ورحمة الله وبركاته.